Guys, it's Kiera, and in this episode we're going to be talking about design quotes and agreements. So in my process, once I'm talking to a client about the different illustrations that we're going to make and the different types of icons and the payments and what we're going to include in all these designs, at the very end I'm going to send them this contract. And the contract is going to serve like a general summary of everything we agreed on. I'm not going to surprise them with anything, but it's going to be something that we can just sign off on, that we both know that these are the terms, that these are the types of designs that we're going to be making, this is the payment structure, and that we just both agree on this type of process, so that none of us are left out in the dark. This is a contract I've been using for a number of years for personal use, but I'm not a lawyer, so I can't guarantee that the words and the actual phrasing here might work for you. Look it over, understand why you need to agree on certain things with the client before you get started on a project, and hopefully you can create your own contract. So let's just break it down step by step. In the very beginning, I have the client's name, the primary contact, the project name, and the date, usually when the project is started and by when they actually need to sign off on the actual contract. On the project details, I'm going to reference everything that the client referenced. So if they linked a lot of footage or a lot of special links to different logos, I'm going to write them here. If they have a specific typeset that they want me to use, I'll put it there. It just reaffirms the client that we both know what I'm going to be designing. For the deliverables, I'm going to be able to explain what I'm going to be presenting to the client and the final assets that they're going to get. So if I'm designing a logo, they're going to get the final vector files, a favicon maybe, a social media image, and maybe a Twitter header or social media branding. Very basic stuff, but they know what they're going to get in the very end. And in this case, they're not surprised that they don't get a logo animation, because it would never be written under the deliverables or even under the project details. Next up is the payment structure. And this entirely depends on how you want to get paid. Some people just want one large sum to get started on a project. Others have 3 payment structures. I personally have 2. One for the initial payment just to get the project kickstarted, and the final payment to buy off all the copyright of all the designs that I made during the process. So in my case, the initial payment is required within 2 business days of signing the agreement, and all the ownership will only be transferred during the final payment. And I'm also writing how I can get paid, in this case either email or direct deposit. And under here, it's the total project quote, so the client is aware of how much the entire project is going to cost them. For the project time frame, I'm not going to shoe myself in a corner with a specific date, but I'm going to say that I'm going to prioritize their needs, I'm going to get started on it as soon as humanly possible, and I'm going to finish it as soon as possible. Basically saying that I'm not going to be delaying it for months and months and months. I'm also letting the client know that they have a large impact on the actual deadline. Because if I ask them for feedback, if I get feedback 2 weeks later, that entire project is going to be pushed 2 weeks, right? I don't want to be put in a corner where they respond in 2 weeks, then they want everything finished within a day. It can't work like that. It's just not possible. It's not going to be comfortable for you. So in this case, I'm just noting that every time they delay, the entire project gets delayed. Also, I'm noting that I only want one source of contact. I don't want to be talking to 4 different people on 4 different messaging clients and sending them all of this information and getting feedback and sending it all back. I just want one person to talk to. That way it's much clearer and you know who to send all the work to. For the content and goals, I'm just asking that the client already provided me with all the information, and then I'm not going to be surprised halfway through that they actually wanted a isometric animation and that they actually don't want a logo. Let's just scrap that project. Everything has to be disclosed beforehand. In the additional charges section, I'm just saying that if anything goes above and beyond what we agree to, there's going to be a flat rate that I work at, such as, if they want additional changes maybe 5 weeks after the project is finished, or that they wanted something in the project that we didn't agree on, there's going to be an hourly flat rate. For the ownership of the artwork, I'm saying that I own everything up until I get the final payment from the client. For merchandising, it's a fairly recent thing that I added in here, basically saying that if my logo is ever turned into physical merchandise, that I would like one sample. Most clients wouldn't have a problem with this, but it's just like a general term that you'd like some merchandise if the client's going to turn this into a large, shop or t-shirt shop or clothing line. It's a very fair thing to ask. For contract modifications, anything that is modified has to be done by both parties. For revisions, this entirely depends on how you work. In my case, I often work with a client on different ideas, directions, sketches, And after we approved a general idea and how we want to proceed, then we'll start narrowing it down with those 2 rounds of revisions. But in that case, we already have the general look, the general feel, and we're just going to revise from there. And by rounds, I mean that I'm going to collect all the information, that entire data dump of what they want to see, how they want to see it revisioned or reworked. I'm going to send them back those changes, and I'm going to do that twice. Anything above that goes to additional changes. Word of originality just states that I'm not stealing this work, that this is entirely mine, and that the client has nothing to worry about on this front. And same goes with limitation of liability, then I'm not going to be held responsible for anything that I may, if there's a certain delay or if there's something that they might not like with the designs, I'm not held liable. Then we're just going to basically agree on these terms, you're going to send it back, and that's it. So there's actually a number of actual services that you can send the contract with. I know there's one by Adobe, there's multiple of Google extensions that you can use. But at the end of the day, you just want to get this signed, so send over a PDF and everything should be good. The contract is going to serve as a very end-all to end-all. You're going to be able to see what you agreed on, the payment structure, and no one's going to be left in the dark. Look it over for yourself, don't use it word for word because I'm not a lawyer and I can't guarantee that everything that I wrote is going to work for you. So, see you in the next lesson.